Around the world, our economies are changing. Sectors like energy, transport, and agriculture are shifting to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and adapt to climate change. These changes are also being driven by new technologies, market trends, and policies promoting sustainable development. Moving towards sustainability brings big benefits for society, but not everyone will experience these changes in the same way. Some people in less sustainable industries may lose their jobs or find their access to natural resources disrupted. In the Global South, the poorest groups are most at risk. Livelihoods in the energy, transport, and land use sectors are especially vulnerable during this transition. A just transition means making sure that as economies change, we support those most vulnerable to the impacts. It's about creating new opportunities so that these changes benefit everyone. The Just Transition Planning Masterclass brought together policymakers and civil society representatives from Kenya, Ghana, Namibia, and Uganda. Together, they shared ideas on how to plan for a just and fair transition in Africa.
I think the term just transition is being used a lot now, and it's used in a lot of different ways, and it can be quite confusing to understand first what it means and then how you make that something practical, like in the context that you're working in. So the purpose or our hopes for this masterclass were firstly to demystify the term just transition and help different groups of people, government, civil society to better understand some of the basic concepts and ideas that could help if you use it as an approach to planning structural change. And then to bring people together from different countries. So we have Ghana, Namibia, Kenya, Uganda, to create a bit of a network between policymakers, civil society, so that they can draw on each other's experience, learn from the kinds of challenges that they're facing in their context.
Just transition, really, if I can unpack it in our local context, is as the country goes around adapting, trying to put in place strategies that adapting to climate change. There's need to be cognizant of the vulnerable groups that may be affected by the changes that we're putting in place.
Just transition has to, first of all, respect the relevant rights that are accorded to various stakeholders, especially the rights that are accorded to communities. And Namibia is unique in the sense that communities have rights over land resources, mainly wildlife, and the associated industries such as tourism.
The challenge I see in Kenya is we have so many actors who are in the fossil industry, the petrol stations, the car manufacturers, the mechanics, the people in the transport sector that are depending 100% on fossil fuel. And the transition will be very difficult if we don't get buy-in from these people.
You might find that whilst the state and partners might be pursuing a transition in the energy sector, maybe the transition that is required is in the food sector. Yeah, maybe that's more pressing than energy. Could also be just that just transition is envisaged in terms of industrialization or innovation in that respect. But maybe the transition that is required is to formalize certain industries and to assist, local entrepreneurs to be able to match up to what the current demands of industries are.
What is prevailing currently is the discussion is reduced to stakeholders in the energy space, without broadening it to include our local communities who will be disproportionately impacted by the extraction of critical minerals needed to propel energy transition technologies. We are not broadening the conversation enough to include other sectors of the economy.
We need to gather data to convince, to explain, to elaborate, to justify to the decision makers with budget.
Can we be deliberate to identify the low-hanging ones and build the capacity of affected sectors and even new ones for them to take advantage of those things, and we scale it up over time? Because if jobs will be lost for a just transition, it means those jobs will be replaced.
I think we need to be analytic of the needs and identify where transition is required, as opposed to basically bringing the top-down approach.
Given that climate change is now a global challenge, we are all learning how to present, how to bring on board the stakeholder mix, the right stakeholder mix, to get everybody in the right direction.
As a former policymaker, I can tell you that many of the government officials spend most of their time at formal settings where you have to represent the official line agreed by your minister. It's very difficult to think freely, and that's why this masterclass created in a beautiful setting in Nairobi, Kenya. It created this special environment where people were honest, where people could think outside of their boxes, people could imagine how certain concepts could work, and also they could visualize the planning for implementation of Just Transition. And I think we achieved a lot.